everybody, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to Tarot Memoirs. This is the weekly video that I put out until I'm done with the tarot anyways, where I share with you some excerpts from my favorite tarot books about our card of the week, some images of that card from various decks in my collection, and then I also share some personal accounts of how this card shows up for me in my life, the way the energy of that card presents itself, and how I connect with it personally. So this week we are talking about the Sun, which is a happy card. Even the shadow side of this card is still kind of happy. It's just slower. So that's the spoiler alert for you. Let's dive into some books. So I have here, as usual, my copy of 78 Degrees of Wisdom by Rachel Pollack, and we'll dive into that one first. If I can find my spot. Here we go. Okay, so I like to highlight bits from the book that stand out to me, and let's just see where we're at here. There we go. So, under the sun, everything becomes simple, joyous, and physical. The light of the unconscious brought into daily life. So that's pretty straightforward. I feel like the sun is a really take what you see is what you get kind of card. Full light, no obscurity, things are visible and good. Among all people, enlightenment bears the same characteristics. Whatever the cultural interpretation through mythology, doctrine, psychology, theory, etc., enlightenment is an experience, not an idea. The person feels struck by a burst of light, sometimes colored, like the yod drops in the Worth card. And I think what we're talking about with that, I'm just going to show you really quickly. Yod drops is from the Marseille, those drops that shower down. I think that's what it's referring to. Oh no, cards just fell. I do this all the time. This is what happens when I skip steps and I show you cards. Oh, you know what? They'll just be out of order and that'll be fine. All right, we'll get to those in a second. So, yod drops. That's where I was at. So again, let me just back up. The person feels struck by a burst of light, sometimes colored like the yod drops in the Worth card. Suddenly, the world is seen or felt as spiritual and eternal, rather than the day-to-day existence of drudgery and confusion. The person feels totally alive with a childlike joy that, in fact, most children probably never know, for the sun-struck person has gone beyond the child's fear of darkness by traveling through it. And that fear of darkness is kind of what we see in the moon, right? We've traveled through that, now we're at the sun, where things are much less obscure. So that's fantastic. The rider pack shows its single, that's this one, shows its single child riding out of a garden. For Waite, the sun experience was essentially a burst of freedom. It was a breaking loose, a wonderful liberation from ordinary restricted consciousness to openness and freedom. Creepy baby. Lots of people call this the creepy baby card because there's like a naked baby on a horse. Like, why? Why does it have to be a naked baby? I don't know. Why does it have to be a naked baby riding a horse when they can't ride horse? I don't know. But it's supposed to be a symbol of freedom and liberation. So that's kind of good to know. The gray stone wall in the picture represents the past life bound by a narrow perception of reality. The superconsciousness of the sun is characterized by feeling a part of the whole world rather than an isolated individual. Cool. The sun's divinatory meanings are as simple and direct as the wondrous children or child in the picture. This card signifies joy, happiness, and a great sense of the beauty of life. Above all, it is a card of optimism, energy, and wonder. Reversed, the good things do not become lost, but confused, as if the sun had been clouded over. So sometimes it's confused. I think in one of these other books we'll talk about it being just delayed. So it's still good. You just might not be seeing it as good. So that's on you, man. It's basically what it's saying. I have never had this come up in a reading and not have it be positive or uplifting in some way. So I think it's rare for this card to even really show much of a shadow, unless this is in a position in a reading that denotes things that you're blocked from or something like that, right? And then it's not really the shadow of the card, it's just that you're blocked from it, the goodness of it. So that's that. In Melissa Sanova's Kitchen Table Tarot, I don't want to lose this, or this. Okay, I can do this. I can be organized. I can do it. I just have to find my page here. Yeah, here we go. The key action phrase here is, I am happy. I didn't actually highlight very much at all in Melissa's book. I don't think. Yeah, just a few little phrases here. So I'll just share those with you really quick. Everything is moved into the light is one of the things that she says. And I think that's important. Things are illuminated. They are clear. There's little that's hidden, I think, at this stage. The sunshine illuminates and enlightens us and shows us that when the shadowy and dark twisties go away, it's not so scary out here after all, which I really love. This is like the sun coming up after the distortion and the confusion of the moon card. The clarity is absolute is one of the quotes she has in here. And finally, inverted, it's not all that different. It's going to be a bit delayed. And okay, might not look like what you expected, but still, it's all right. So, still good. May not be what you expected. I think that's important. Sometimes we get exactly what we need, and it's not what we thought we wanted, so we don't recognize it when it happens. But it still happens. Okay. In Benebel's Holistic Tarot, I have highlighted, I'm going to still hold the card up because sometimes it references symbols from here. The theme of Key 19 is success and glory, attainment and accomplishment. In particular, the seeker will enjoy success that brings with it recognition, applause, or accolades. In readings about love and relationships, the Sun card is a great sign. It indicates a radiant marriage, perhaps one to a spouse with a successful career. The card is all about success. It could suggest a power couple. In inquiries about work or career, the Sun card represents high achievement in the arts and sciences. The seeker is capable of great intellectual and creative achievement. It's like success on hyperdrive, so it's good. It's good. Reversed, there may be the loss of something valuable to the seeker. Be careful. The traditional meaning of the Sun in reverse is a warning that an asset or property that the seeker cherishes may be lost, which is interesting. I hadn't actually heard that perspective before. So it could just be that something that you care about could be lost if you're not careful. So I thought that was really interesting. I mean, in whole, this card, or sorry, this card, it's meant to be positive. And when it comes up in a reading, it's meant to be one of those clear signs. It's a clear yes. So if you were to like ask a yes, no question and pull this card, the Sun is a yes. So it is a what you see is what you get kind of thing. And so I want my Sun cards to be happy and to get that idea crossed without like, preferably without the baby, because not a fan. But I'll take it. It's still happy. So this is the Rider-Waite version. And then we have the Crystal Tarot version. And here the unicorn is holding a banner. I guess the baby is also holding a banner. Yeah, the baby's also holding some kind of big red banner here. So now we have a unicorn with a bright pink banner. I like the pink banner better. Just saying. Still a really bright, smiling sun, sunflowers, the garden wall, and there's a crystal here. I believe that might be, I don't want to guess. I'd have to look at the guidebook to see. There's crystals in all the major arcana for this deck. In the greenwood, we see the sun of life, and we see the heart chakra area of this person, or rather the solar plexus. Heart, solar, can't tell. Probably meant to be solar plexus. I think the heart's a little higher. Just lit up with bright light. And so we get this idea of being broken, burst wide open. Things, you're filled to bursting. You're happy. I definitely get all of that from this image. In the Shadowscapes Tarot, we see, my eyes don't do well with this artwork, as beautiful as it is. It's just so tiny. It's so sad. I want the bigger version of this deck. But it's in a different language, and I want it in English, because I'm lazy. But honestly, this is clearly the Sun card. I would probably do fine with a foreign language version of this deck. I might have to bite the bullet eventually, because this art is so beautiful and needs bigger cards. Anyways, enough complaining. This is a dude riding a bird into the sun. It's very joyful. It's very happy. There's a lot of energy here. I like that. This doesn't really do a lot for me, the Mythic Tarot, but again, I need to study this deck, and I will be a little bit later this year, so hopefully this will make more sense to me. I'm guessing that's Apollo, the sun god, which would make sense. I love the sun from the Sun and Moon Tarot. These two figures just sort of dancing joyfully together under the bright sun in a garden of flowers. Like, it's literally like that movie moment where people go running across the field of flowers to each other. I mean, it's not just even a romance. It's just that feeling of jubilance and happiness when you kind of get what you want or what you think, you know, what you deserve in a good way, in a positive way. The sun in the Healing Light Tarot. Bright and joyful. And the lemniscate, where the two circles overlap, is highlighting these sort of crossed hands, or this connection between these two figures that are sort of dancing in the light of the sun here. Love that. The sun from the Mythic Fairy Tarot. We see this radiant warmth and light in the color choices in this card. Very pretty. I don't see the glow and the brightness here as much as I might want to. I think this is meant to be a sun fairy. I think the sun is behind her, but it seems a little more orangey than really bright yellow. And I think I kind of missed that brightness. In the Tarot of the Hidden Realm, these two look very happy. I love this sort of winged, I think that's a butterfly up here by the sun. I love that. The sun in Deviant Moon, no complaints. This has those like sort of drops of Yod, kind of more like the Marseille version of the card, which I appreciate. This is really interesting to me. So this is the sun from the Prisma Visions. Let's see if I can do this where it's not glaring. And it looks like a bunch of melting flowers. But I had a weird moment with I don't know how I feel about this. Like, it's melting. They're melting. I mean, they're melting into a pretty rainbow, so I guess that's nice. I need to read about this one because I don't know. If you have this deck and you have an idea, or if you just have some ideas of what this might mean, I'd be curious if you would tell me in the comments below. Just, what do you think? What do you think this means in this deck? I have to work with this deck more, and I haven't in quite some time. But yeah. The sun is all, like, masculine and, like, glowy in the Tarot of Dreams by Ciro Marchetti. Definitely a lot of power and success, I think, here. For sure. You kind of got the whole dudes holding the sun in one hand and I think the earth in the other. Yep. Sun in one hand, earth in the other. Cool. And Master of the Mystic Light, the Warrior. This is the sun in the Spirit Keeper's Tarot by Benabel Wen. There's probably a lot to dive in here as well. I'm studying this deck actually in January, February, March of 2019, so I should hopefully have some more info in my head about this. But if you have already dug into the guidebook that comes with this deck, the Book of Maps, and have some insight about how this relates to the light of the sun and of success, I would be curious. As it is, it's a sun card, so I would read it as a sun card if it came up in a reading. And then, of course, the Marseille, which I showed at the beginning with the two children playing under the sun. So those are some images. The sun is one of those cards that I don't want to say it's boring, but it's kind of boring in a way because I feel like it is a what you see is what you get card. So I don't have a ton to say about it that way. I think it's never been one that was obscure for me in a reading or one that I had to build a relationship with. It was just one that I was like, yeah, sun, happy, good, yay. So I guess in that way it's kind of harder to articulate how it shows up for me in my life. But let's see what I wrote down here for notes for myself. So taking it from the perspective of sort of success and recognition, the small way that this would show up is when I'm recognized for doing something good in my job, for example. So maybe I've accomplished something at work and I'm recognized for that success. Maybe there's a raise out of the blue. You know, somebody's saying, hey, I really appreciate what you do. Here's a raise. It's like that recognition of what you've accomplished. And so that's a way that the sun can show up for me sort of in an everyday sort of situation. In a shadow situation, I could see that sometimes we'll do a thing. Let's say we put a body of work out, like a book. Say you write a book and you put it out there and it's complete, but you can't quite celebrate it until you know how it's going to be received. So there's a bit of a delay in the celebration of it. And at a certain point, regardless of how it's received, most people will still celebrate the fact that they did it, but there's that sort of period of delay. So that's kind of what I was thinking as far as how the sun might show up in a shadow way. But it's kind of hard to think about the shadow side of the sun because, again, the sun's pretty much a big fat yes. Light-wise, you know, this came up for me recently in a journal prompt that I answered, which was asking me how I celebrate my accomplishments. And I realized I'm bad at that. Like, I'm really good at noticing when I do something that I want to do better. And not in like a horrible, like, berating way, but definitely in a more self-critical way. It's easier for me to notice the things that I'm not feeling successful at. But when I actually succeed at something, I don't always notice. However, from a personal growth standpoint, because I didn't learn how to relate to other people in a really healthy way growing up, and I know we see themes about this kind of through the whole major arcana, but it's my life. But because I didn't learn, somebody's got a motorcycle. Sorry if you can hear that. Anyway, because I didn't learn really clear examples of that growing up, I had to learn a lot of that stuff as an adult. And I definitely have had moments where, I'll use this one as an example. So learning how to argue without being like a toxic mess, that was a big accomplishment for me. And the first time that I managed to have a disagreement with Peggy, because she's where I learned, I hacked a lot of this stuff with her help and also on my own. But the first time that I think we had like a healthier argument, I mean, people argue, that part's fine. But I hadn't learned how to argue or express my feelings without either exploding with my feelings or completely repressing them and just being a doormat. And so a lot of that stuff I had to learn through my relationship with her. And so the first time that we had sort of a healthy argument, I remember feeling really kind of excited. Like, I just did the thing. Like, I just did the thing and I didn't like do toxic soup. Like, yay me. So I definitely had a moment of celebrating that success. But if anything, this card and trying to come up with a good, clear example of celebrating and really basking, I realized I don't do that enough. So, because it was harder to think of an example than I feel like it should have been. Because there's been a lot of things I've done in my life that I think are worthy of celebration. But I'm not always good at celebrating my own accomplishments or achievements. And so, yeah, it was kind of a little eye-opener to realize that I need to do that a little bit more. And you do too, probably. Because I think a lot of us struggle with noticing when we do well, and we're quicker to notice when we do poorly at something. So I am curious if you have experiences with the sun that you want to share. Please leave them in the comments down below if you are so comfortable, or if not, then you can share them with us over on the Supportive Tarot Facebook group. We have sort of a smallish membership there, so there's, you know, you can kind of bounce things off of people and share without it being so wide open like YouTube. But if you're comfortable, I'd love to hear what your thoughts are on the sun card. And then also, if you want to engage with this in a more private way, I like to share journal prompts. Another motorcycle. Okay. I like to share journal prompts from Andy Matzner's Journaling the Tarot. So here's the ones I have for you to work with this week if you so choose. Firstly, what are you proud of? Secondly, what is an accomplishment you need to celebrate? What makes you feel alive? Where will your liberation come from? And where is your happy place? How can you access it more often? I liked that one. I like my happy place. Sometimes my happy place is watching My Little Pony. It really is. Friendship is magic. I like it. Anyways, with that, I hope you have a beautiful afternoon, day, or evening, wherever you might be. Remember to like this video if you enjoyed this week's edition of Tarot Memoirs, and please hit subscribe if you are new here and you want to be notified. Wait, nope, that's wrong, Lisa. Subscribe, just make sure that you get my videos in your feed, but the bell is what notifies you when YouTube is actually working that I've put new content out or I'm about to go live. And I do sometimes do spontaneous live free tarot readings here on my channel, or I sometimes schedule them, so if you want to be notified of that kind of stuff, you'll want to hit the bell. So anyways, thank you again so much for joining me. I love doing this series, and I will see you all again next week when we tackle Judgment. Bye!